Hello, and welcome to Tim's Reflections from Ohio, a YouTube video series where we talk about and reflect on the parables that Jesus told, stories he told, and just stories from his life as told in the four Gospels in our Bible. Our reflection for today comes from Matthew chapter 4, and I'll be reading verse 1. Excuse me. Then Jesus was led up by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. We need to remember that when Jesus went into the wilderness and ended up fasting 40 days, and it said afterward he was hungry, when that happened and he was tempted by the devil, he didn't go into there on his own. He didn't walk blindly into temptation. It said he was led by the Spirit into the wilderness to be tempted by the devil. There was a purpose in him going into the wilderness and a purpose in him going through those temptations. So often today, we walk blindly into temptation. We find ourselves bombarded in this world by temptations to buy this, to buy that, to get these clothes, to get our hair cut in a certain way, to drive a certain car, to live in a certain neighborhood. All of these temptations, we need to make sure that when we're making decisions, we're being led by God. And to give you an example how simple this is, I have a story that happened to me several years ago. Well, first of all, I want to mention, and I've mentioned it before, but I want to mention it again. I love books. I have books everywhere in my home. My wife loves books. She has lots of books. We are book lovers at our house. And so one day I was in a store, and there was a book. It caught my attention, and the title of it, it's been long enough ago, I don't remember the exact title, but it was something close to Why Horses Sleep Standing Up and 101 Other Facts About Horses. Well, up to that point, I knew almost nothing about horses, but I did know that they do sleep standing up. Suddenly, I was overcome by this overwhelming need to know, why do horses sleep standing up? So I bought the book, and I brought it home, and I read Why Horses Sleep Standing Up. There's all those 101 other facts about horses that I just lost interest in at that point. I knew, according to the book, why they sleep standing up. I'm done with the book, and it's gone. Now, as I look back on that, I realized I wasted my money. Fortunately, it was a thrift store, so I didn't pay a lot of money for the book. But I did learn that little fact, but I saw how easily we can be influenced by things like that. We can be walking through the store and on our way to, we may be in Walmart or Meijer or one of the bigger stores, and we're walking through the store and we're on our way to get some milk or to get some paper towels. And as we're walking through the store, we pass by maybe a clothing rack, maybe a something else for our home. And as we walk by, we think, wow, what a good price. It's wintertime. That sweatshirt, I would really like that sweatshirt. And we start thinking about it. We don't need a sweatshirt. We have plenty of sweatshirts. We don't need another sweatshirt, I should say. We have plenty at home. This article for our home, we already have one. It's just not quite as nice as this one. But suddenly, we start rationalizing in our mind, I really need that. I would be so happy if I was able to go to work tomorrow and wear that sweatshirt. And all these things go on in our minds, and we start making decisions on our own without talking to God about it, and we end up spending money that we don't have or spending money that we need for something else, and then we're in trouble. The credit card bill comes at the end of the month, and we look at it and think, oh, I wish I had never bought that sweatshirt. Or I wish I had never bought that kitchen gadget. I really didn't need it. I already had one that was working okay. Another thing that can happen is that we're at work, we're getting out of our car in a parking lot at work, and we see our friend over to the side getting out of their brand new car. And we think about it and we think, boy, I wish I could drive something like that. I used to park in a parking lot at work beside a friend, and he had bought a brand new Hummer. Now, I had a decent car. My car was nothing to be embarrassed about, but it looked pretty pitiful sitting beside that new Hummer. And so it's easy for us in those situations to start thinking, and our car is perfectly fine, but if I sold my car, I could get enough money, or I traded it in, I could get enough money to make a really nice down payment on that new vehicle that we don't need. And we start thinking, if I juggle this money from here over to there, and I did this and that, and we're figuring it out in our minds, before we know it, we figured it out, I can do it. Even though it's something we don't need, because our old car is working perfectly fine. The world system is out there, and it's bombarding us. It's bombarding us that we need, that ladies need to look a certain way. For guys, our wives need to look a certain way. It's just constantly bombarding us with these messages that you need this, you need that, you need to look like this, or your wife needs to look like this, or your husband needs to look like this, or whatever the case might be. And we, as Christians, we are so easily buy into it at times. Now, our reflection for today is this. Make sure that we are not buying into the world system. And the best way to do that is to cut off access to it as much as possible. We live in a world where we may not be able to not touch the internet. We may need it for work. We may need it for personal things, but we can limit our use of it. We can put a blocker on our computer so that if we're tempted to go to those websites that we shouldn't, that we can block them. We can make a commitment. Ask our spouse, our husband, our wife, ask a friend to hold us accountable for our finances. Hold us accountable for the use of our time, our internet time, our television viewing time, the commercials that come on during the television programs. Again, bombard us with, you need this and you need that and you need something else. And before we know it, we think, yeah, I do need that. So the reflection today is to, again, act like Jesus. Ask the question, what would Jesus do in this situation? If Jesus were in my shoes, would he buy that new car, or would he keep the old one that's working fine? If Jesus were in my shoes, would he buy that new sweatshirt or that new pair of shoes when at home I have 5 sweatshirts and 3 pairs of shoes and they're all perfectly fine? If Jesus were in my shoes, would he spend that money on this trinket, this kitchen gadget, when I really don't need it and probably wouldn't use it very often, if at all? Ask Jesus, what should I do? Pray. Turn our decisions over to him. Ask for his guidance. It may be that we need to buy another car. We need to replace our car. It's time for it to go. We had to do that with my car a few years back. It was time for that car to go. It needed more money in repairs than it was worth. Excuse me. And it was time for that car to go. And in that situation, we need to ask God to guide us. And we did that. Guide us to the right car for me, for my family, for me or for my family, whatever the situation is. Ask God to guide our decisions. Ask God to show us whether this is a want or a need. We need to balance those, to separate them. This is a want, but I don't need it, and I want to pass it by. That's it for today. I hope that you have a blessed week. Hope that your week goes well. Hopefully you had a good Thanksgiving. had some time with family and friends. And I'm just going to leave it here. Again, remember, in the coming week, our reflection, ask God to help us in making our daily decisions of our life. Thank you for viewing. If you've been blessed by the reflection, please hit the thumbs up button there at the bottom. Subscribe to the channel if you've not already done so. Have a great day, a great week, and God bless you. And remember, God loves you.